What's up, guys? Daemonxel back again with another Eve Frontier video. All right, we got a second round of developer Q&A to go through. I got all the answers. Let's talk about it. All right, so this is a Q&A that was derived from the stream that happened yesterday, which was the Vision stream, the path forward of all the mechanics and gameplay, what they are expecting the game to go into. So these are questions from the players that they got from that stream, and we're going to condense it down. So an hour-long program down into possibly under 20 minutes. Let's see if we can do it. But first, like always, if you guys are deciding to become a founder for the game, go ahead and you can use the link in the description below. Use my code. It will help going forward with Grace and everything else. But let's get right into this. Let's bring up the first question. And also, we got information on what's going on with this end of the cycle, as well as the next cycle that will be starting. Okay, so the first question is from Michael JD. It says, we have seen a lot of top-down views and pie-in-the-sky discussion regarding the development direction. To get into the weeds a bit, can you tell us about what mechanics and testing focuses we might be seeing in this upcoming cycle? What does the team see as a conflict drivers or reasons to fight in E-Frontier when we start seeing them? All right, so they basically go into saying that in this next news cycle, we're not going to see a lot of changes, right? They want to go and see the most thing they're going to see is stability. So we're not going to have the same problems that we had with this cycle, with lack of carbon, rifts, all the issues and all bugs that we had in this. They wanted to smooth all that out so we have a nice transition into the next one. That doesn't mean we're not going to get new things. They did say we are definitely introducing small gates. That will be in the game. They also have some other cool things, but they don't want to spoil it just yet. There is no big focus currently on endgame or tribe conflict drivers just yet. That's going to be down the road. They also want to lean heavily into grace points for conquering space. And of course, there's not going to be any tribe base building just yet in this next upcoming cycle. So there's going to be a grace rework system. We're going to have new missions that we can do and report actively via the system in-game for this next cycle. So let's go to the next question. This next question is by Spirit. It says, with the mention of blockchain-based tracking for items, physics, and item ownership history in E-Frontier, will players be able to see kill marks tied to a ship across different owners? In other words, if you have a ship and you give your friend the ship, will those kill marks still be retained on that ship? In other words, will ships carry a persistent kill mark and ownership history that reflects all previous pilots' achievements? And their answer to that is we will see kill marks and ownership history as tied to the blockchain itself. Yes, we will even, it says here, yes, we will even be tied to historic battles. So in other words, if there was like, say, a massive battle, right, in this one system between two tribes, and say this one ship was the lone survivor, that will be reflected in the kill marks and the ship history, which will all be attainable via the blockchain. So yes, be looking forward to that. Now, does this maybe open up a market down the line? So you have, 1,000 kill marks on the ship. Does that make that one ship more valuable to sell than another ship? Possibly. Well, there's always a market for something, right? So let's go to the next question. And next question is by yours truly. You're welcome. Thank you. And the stream yesterday got me thinking about when they were talking about modification of clones. So I asked, it was talked about that clones will have different modifications and changes that you can do to them, implants, things like that. Does this mean if you collect someone's corpse in space, you could extract skills or those modifications that were done to that clone? Do you think that this may start a underworld corpse market? And just for fun, how much do you think CCP Jotun's corpse would run? Now, what they did say, they love the idea. And in fact, Goodfellow loved the idea of there being an underground market for these things and the whole thing about recycling corpses. But they said it will happen down the line. Yes, we will be able to do stuff like this down the line. And yes, he can see a market for this. That was from CCP Overlord. If I didn't mention it before, it was CCP Jotun, CCP Overload, and CCP Goodfella via remote that was on this Frontier Friday. Except Goodfella thinks it was a great idea and the ability to recycle these corpses. They don't know how in depth it's going to go, but they do see the viability of this and they think it's a great idea, so they're going to run with it. Again, another one by me. You're welcome again. And this, I believe everyone wants to know, is how soon will we be able to see those topological modifications for these ships? Or will it only be after, WASD controls will be introduced? Now, we do know that WASD will not be in the next cycle. We won't see it for a few cycles. They did say that they're working on it. They still have just a prototype, and it's not ready to be introduced for testing yet. So probably I would expect 2 to 3 cycles, unless they really put some heavy work into that system, that we won't see it for at least, I would say, cycle 4, 5 maybe of this era. They did say that, yes, we won't see the topological modifications as well. I don't see how they can introduce those modifications without the WASD controls, because if you're modifying, like, say, one side armor, one side guns, and to take the hits, you have to position your ship with that armor side. I think it's going to be a lot harder to do that with the WASD controls not in the game. You know what I'm saying? So let's go to the next question, and that is by James Lee. Let's see. Do you consider utilization real scientific analytical techniques as a mini-game-based tools used as in-game scanning and analytical equipment? It's a mouthful. The signature scanning as triangulation using probes in EVE Online is a nice example, but there are other activities which may benefit from this. For example, XRF spectrograph analysis to find asteroid chemical composition. But there is also things like mass spegometry, optical spectroscopy. I know I butchered that, and many others. Some of them must be made on site/grid in situations, but some can be made remotely, as many like many AU away from the target. Now, they did say this. They said, yes, they have some prototypes of this already. They're not ready to be introduced to the game yet. There is going to be a major overhaul on the materials that are in the universe. So we are only getting the base elements of what is out there. They're going to be introducing a hell of a lot more into the game. They said what we could actually see in space is what we would see in real life, what they're measuring out in space. They want the game to be steeped in actual science, based on the science for us to play through. They have been also playing with cryptological data to incorporate that into the game as well. So yes, we will be seeing a lot more different things, more scientific things in the game, and a lot more materials to break down from these things. You never know. There might be space radiation, right? Or maybe solar farming. We don't know. But I like the fact that we're going in that direction. All right. The next one is from Zlo. When is Circle 2? Basically, when is Cycle 2, right? And let me bring up an announcement that they made prior to this today. One second. And that is here. That means, okay, so it says, writers, we've been working hard to resolve unexpected back-end issues that emerged during Cycle 1, particularly with the mission hub. As you know, a lot of these missions are not carrying over. They are in the back end, but they're not displaying it in-game. Grace tracking and the leaderboard. These fixes have taken longer than expected. Summer also brings a natural slowdown as the team takes time to recharge. A lot of people going on vacations. While progress continues, we've adapted our plans around this seasonal pace. So as a result of that, they've decided to extend the cycle that we're in now by 1 week. So it's not ending anymore on the 13th. It will now end on August 20th. Now, they did not give a date as to when Cycle 2 will begin. They're going to share more of that next week. But it says here, this extra time allows us to test improvements, especially to the mission hub, strengthen the game's technical foundation. Our goal is a smoother start to Cycle 2 and a better long-term experience. If you've seen issues with Grace or the leaderboard, know that we are capturing correct data behind the scenes. Standings and Grace totals will be updated after Cycle 1 ends, which may shift rankings slightly and will take a few weeks to finalize. So in other words, all the EVE points that you are gathering here from this Grace will not be converted until after September. As we move into Cycle 2, these improvements lay the groundwork for new missions, events, and the first steps in uncovering the deeper mysteries of the frontier. Again, they'll share more next week, including details of what's coming in Cycle 2. In other words, we're going to get some patch notes for what's coming in Cycle 2. Now, before they move on to the next questions, they did want to let you know that a lot of people were submitting questions. In fact, yours truly, I submitted a bunch too, and as you can see, I screwed up here. I separated my name. Like, this is how it appears in game. This is how it appears on Discord. I had not had coffee that day, so yeah, you can see I'm on there twice. But a lot of people, as you can see, the bigger the name or the brighter the name, the more people submitted questions. And they said Don Quixote here submitted a ton of questions. In fact, I think the next question is from him. Let's take a look at it. Yes. Will there be partial wipes? I know everyone, after watching yesterday, was wondering this. Are there going to be partial wipes going on in the game? No one really wants this, right? No one wants to lose everything that they spent months on building. But he says, when the game launches, full wipes like the current cycle system isn't appealing, but something like a massive feral attack or gravity waves from territories causing massive damage, destroying structures and large empires to force rebuilding and migration and prevent the EF equivalent from EO's Big Blue Donut. So they did turn around and said that no developer wipes are going to happen after launch. So basically, as we move from cycle to cycle, these are developer wipes. The developers come in, wipe the server down, give it a slap a fresh coat of paint on it, and we play again. That's not going to be the case when we launch. Now, what is going to happen is there will be stuff in game that happens, but not a wipe. Small changes made by events, such as feral swarms, radiation storms, stuff like that, that will affect greater areas of regions of the universe. But you're not going to be wiping, you're not going to lose your character, everything you built, and everything like that due to this. There's no developer coming in to wipe away everything. All right, the next question was also by Don Quixote. So in regards to what CCP Maximum Cats was talking about clones, does that mean riders will start out as pure infomorphs and you have to obtain a clone body as part of progression? Will clone bodies be something you simply equipped into your ship, or will be something that you have to transfer into like capsular clones in EVE Online? Now, they say yes and no to this, right? They say clone progression will not be as well developed as it is in EVE Online. And there's a reason for this. They say there's not as much infrastructure in Frontier as it is in EVE Online. In other words, you got to look at both games that way. So EVE Online, right? Active Galaxy, right? Everything's happening, thousands of worlds, stuff like that. In the Frontier, we are in a dead universe, right? It's dead, decaying. All humanity has been wiped out for thousands of years, and we're just kind of now exploring this, awaking in this and finding the greater meaning to this. So, yes, there is not that level of infrastructure in this universe currently as there is in EVE Online. That being said, you're going to be working off the ancient technologies that you find in these ancient ruins and these long forgotten, colonies, these long forgotten civilizations, and you're going to use that to shape your clone, transform your clone into what you need to survive and move forward. All right, the next question was, see here, if I hit the button correctly. There we go. Did I get the right one? Yep. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Let me go back. Okay, sorry. Technical difficulty. All right, it says, early on in the stream, there was talks about the expedition loop. How will areas in the world accommodate these expeditions? This is by Aki, by the way. You can already see down below. Are these mainly referring to remote areas away from where riders have settled, or were certain parts of the world be designed for expeditions? Maybe those areas are too dangerous to live in, but survival for a short time is possible. They said that riders will start off... No, that's the wrong question. Sorry. They say there's not one definitive answer to this, right? It says it could be some of all this. It could be some, all, partial. The concept now is to have like different type zones with huge distance between systems. In other words, they want to make things different, like on the things on the edge of the galaxy, right, where it's huge distance to get to these places. Well, they may have secrets that you won't find anywhere else. That being the case, also the more dangerous part in the center of the universe, near the black holes, could also provide these secrets as well. So yes, there is going to be a level of danger and kind of like way of getting to these places, but they are going to be kind of not in the areas that you are living in. Now, let's go back to a question because I did skip one by Don Quixote here. It says, while having large NPC stations or cities to draw players together is a good thing, it encourages interaction. Will it be possible for the hermit to survive all by themselves in a remote area with no access to an NPC station? Currently, this is impossible as it keeps it required for Lux and more for specific lenses, those lens 3s. They did say that hermits can still thrive, right? But only certain things will be available at keeps, right? They equate it to living in the countryside, right? You'll have everything that you have, but if there's luxury items that you want, or specialty items, they might not be in your area. You might have to travel to, say, if you're in the country, you have to travel to the city to get those items and come back. So yes, they do. They're not making it the center. You can live off the side, but there's going to be some things that you forego, and that happens to be one of them. So let's move on to the next question. To that one. There we go. Another one by Aki. We're not supposed to talk about them, but how much can be said about ferals at the moment? Will they be something that we have to constantly think, worry about, and defend against, or will they be more passive obstacle in the world that we choose to engage on our own terms? Now, they equate this to the rats in EVE Online, right? Ferals are different than the rats in EVE Online. And EVE Online, you have to go to specific sites to deal with rats, right? Here, you can go to the sites and interact with the ferals, but there's going to be certain times where ferals will come out and interact with you. And what I mean by that is, say you are becoming, you have your system, right? And you have your base, and your base starts becoming super well coordinated. You're pumping out things. It's becoming very, very, like a huge heat bloom on the map. Well, that may attract some ferals to come start attacking you at your base. That's what they were striving for. Like a few cycles ago, there was instances where these ferals would actually hang out at system gates, right? Not player-made gates. I mean, these are gated constellations, but they would be sitting on the gate, and once you travel through, all of a sudden they would lock you and destroy you. So yeah, expect more of that in the future. It's not just going to a site and dealing with them. They will be out and about. You may just, jump into a system and oof, I'm now in a feral swarm. So let's go to the next question, which is by Heavy Metal. It says, I am a representative of the working player. I'm 65 plus hours a week with maybe 4 to 6 hours playtime each week. Is there plans for things like weekly challenges and a home system triggered by building a semi-permanent base, similar to the 7-day horde in 7 Days to Die? I ask because this provides fairly exciting weekly events to look forward to, with the risk of losing some of the hard work if not properly prepared for. Now, they did answer that they are, it's not in the client currently, these events. But yes, we will see vestiges of this in the mission hub. We will see missions like this. There will be world events. There will be something for all types of players, whether you play, 20 plus hours a week or, maybe 5-6 hours a week. There'll be something for everyone to do in the game, and there will be an event that everyone can participate in. They said the exact delivery of it is not in there yet. They don't know how they're exactly going to deliver it. But they agree with the question with Heavy Metal saying that they want to be respectful to people's times that they put into the game, as well as people's times outside of the game. They did say that the expedition session loop, now we didn't really talk about it in the video yesterday, that once you are out of that game loop, right, there will be times where you can actually traverse back, right, and do these expeditions where you're going to get into that expedition loop again, you survive, die, and, find things. But they refer to it as play sessions for archaeological instances. In other words, you're going out, you're finding things in these expeditions, bringing them back to the base to enhance your knowledge, enhance things that you have. So those things can be done by, maybe playing an hour or two So that's going to be something for a more casual player as well. All right, let's go to the next question. And this is by Jamie With. Says, what can we actually expect in the upcoming cycles? What new content, experiences, data collected on CCP side, and so on? Now, they said in the future cycle, just a lot of bug fixes, right? There's some things in the future, some things will be wildly different as they test new things. We might just see things introduced for one cycle and then never back again. This is how they're going to be doing testing. They said a lot more of this. We're going to see a lot more of this when they do the roadmap stream, which is going to be probably near the end of August, beginning of September. They're going to give us a roadmap of what to expect in the upcoming months in the future cycles. So let's go to the next one. This is by Stormcrow. I've noticed there is a lot of refining, pre, and making materials, but will there be plans to be able to reverse engineer mods we collect to make blueprints, or even recycle unwanted mods? Now, we talked yesterday in the video about stacks, right? What these stacks are, where you get your blueprints from through these expeditions. They are going to say that yes, there is going to be ways to recycle old mods, but they're not in the game yet. There's no plans on when it's going to be introduced into the game. But as far as reverse engineering and stuff like that, these stacks that you bring back or that through your expeditions, you're going to be having to do things like that. You're not only, reverse engineering, but decrypting them, disinfecting them because they could be have a feral virus on them, stuff like that. There will be a lot of that we'll see down the road. It's just not ready yet. Again, we are all in alpha right now. We're testing things as they are making them. Aki back with another question. Says, something that was not talked about a lot in the presentation is how smart assemblies fit into the picture at each step of the way. Currently, a lot of what we have is very restricted to assembly owners with limited or no ability to share facilities. Simple examples in the current build would be that we cannot link two gates owned by different players or allow others to help keep assemblies fueled. Can we talk about how base building will fit in the picture specifically for group play? Now, this is also the last question of the stream, and they said that currently they are building everything on an individual basis. It's different than EVE Online, where everything was built and designed on group play first, and then down to the solo player. This way, they wanted to focus on single player interactions first, and then go up to group play, because they said even when you do go into a group, a tribe, you are still an individual player, right? There's still certain things that you're going to want to do by yourself. They said, so that's why they're doing it that way. There's going to be more coming down the road. Yes, right now we have the basic permissions, right? Tribe made gates. If you're in this tribe, allow access to all these. But this is going to be expanded further on down the road. So they're only starting at the solo phase, and they're going to make it more detailed and stuff like that. They said previously that they're giving us the building blocks for designers to build things more on top of this, right? Kind of like how web design was first made, HTML, and then people made CCS, and how everything, they made sites where all you gotta do is drag and drop things to make a website, right? A few keystrokes and you got a website, not the actual coding. So everything right now, think of it as its infancy right now, right? Yes, there will be things down the road, but currently right now we're just taking the first few steps in this game together. So that covers everything that was due in this Q&A. I will be doing more videos next week. I'm definitely gonna have to get that mall video out, and we're gonna have a patch notes next week, which is gonna show us what's gonna be coming in Cycle 2. So be on the lookout for that. So I hope you guys found this interesting, informative. I learned a lot. Like, I'm really excited about some of the things that are going on. I will be opening up a corpse underground market. With that said, have a great week. Have a great weekend. Fly safe. Remember, here on this channel, we are always one vision, one purpose, one front. I'll see you guys in the next video.